Hi, we've been looking at the art of Pablo Picasso in art class, and some of his art that we've been taking a look at has got guitars in it, and mandolins, and various musical instruments. So I brought in a couple of samples of student artwork today, and we're going to use a Sharpie and magic markers to try to create some abstract guitars like the ones you see on the left-hand side of the screen. The guitar shape is kind of like a figure 8 shape. It's got a nice curvy line, and it doesn't have to be a perfect figure 8 or a perfect curve as it curves in and out, but most guitars have a sound hole in the middle, and then the neck has a rectangular shape. So you see these shapes repeated: the rectangular neck, the circular sound hole, the curvy sides of the guitar. So we've been studying these pieces that have a guitar in them. Notice everywhere there is an overlap, the artist changed colors wherever there's an overlap. So again, when we do abstract art, we're not trying to create the real thing. We're not trying to draw a realistic looking guitar or maybe mandolin. The smaller instrument might be the mandolin, but we're trying to give the impression of that object. So let's get started. We're going to use a Sharpie marker today, fine point. Please try to use the side of the marker. Don't press hard down on the tip and push it in. And we can do some different curves. Yours don't have to look anything at all like the examples that are up here. They're there to inspire you. So I'm thinking about the curves of a guitar as it curves in and out. Again, in abstract art, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be exactly the same on both sides. And I could continue that part right through the middle. Now I like working with the Sharpie because you can change the thickness of the line. I'm tracing back around to make my line a little bit thicker in parts. And then when we switch over to the permanent markers to do the color, the Sharpie shouldn't be disturbed. In other words, sometimes markers, like washable markers, will pick up the Sharpie and spread the black around. We don't want that to happen in today's art project. So there's one of my guitar bodies, and I think the neck of the guitar should go this way. That's just what I picked. First, I'm going to put the sound hole on it. And on our example artwork made by another student, some of the necks go all the way back here, where the bridge of the guitar is, and the strings start, and some of the necks start right here. Now, if we were trying to draw a realistic guitar, that's where the necks would begin, on this side of the sound hole. And then most of these guitars we're creating will just come to an end. You don't have to worry about the head stock of the guitar. So there's one of my guitars. I'm going to draw some circles. We have circles around our guitars. I think it plays off the shape of the sound hole, but it also reminds me of music. Music notes, like the whole note, has a shape like a circle. And also think of the music floating through the air, kind of like bubbles. I'm going to do another guitar here that's going to be a little bit larger, and I'm going to create an overlap with the neck of this guitar right here. I'm going to connect it and go back around again, trying to make my line very thick. Not trying to create more than one line. I'm trying to make it have a nice flow to it. I really like these curvy shapes of the guitar. I like to play guitar in my free time, and that's one of the things I love about these art pieces by Picasso we've been studying, is he makes you think about the shape of the guitar. The Three Musicians painting we looked at is a painting that he did of himself and two friends who were playing music together. Let me add the sound hole for the guitar in here, with that circle shape. Not all guitar sound holes are circular. Some have some different abstract shapes. Now let's do the neck of the guitar, the rectangle that starts here. And it extends out about the same length as the length of the guitar it belongs on. And we could add in some more circles. Maybe we have another circle right here that overlaps the two guitars we've already created. Some students have suggested where an overlap occurs, you could try to show which secondary color we would create if you mix the primary colors together. And you can think about that if you want to in your artwork. Or you can use variety, that you pick up lots of different colors. Now, when we looked at the painting called Guitar and Mandolin, we learned that a mandolin looks kind of like a guitar, but it's smaller. And it actually has the same notes on the strings as a violin. So mandolin and violin sound really beautiful together. So we could have a mandolin somewhere in our artwork too, an instrument that's like a guitar, only smaller. And the mandolin that I showed my classes is called an F-style mandolin, so it has some different curves to it. So I might try to create a mandolin and try to create a slightly different curve to it. And that F-style mandolin has a curve on the front like this. So you could try that if you want, or you could just make it curve around like the guitar. That's fine too. Your art doesn't have to look exactly like mine. I want you to share your own ideas. Our main theme today is trying to do an abstract piece inspired by, not copying, but inspired by Pablo Picasso, using the shapes of circles and guitars, and this is a mandolin. And the neck on it is thinner and shorter. And different mandolins have different kind of sound holes on them. I'm not even going to do a sound hole on my mandolin. I am going to add some more of the smaller bubbles. Some medium bubbles. Maybe they're music notes. Trying not too hard to press down on the tip of my Sharpie. I want my Sharpie to stay sharp. If I press down too hard, it won't be sharp for long, and it will be hard to do the detailed art that I want to. And I might bring in another smaller bubble right here to pick up on the sound holes some. So now, to fill up the edge of our space here, we'll need to do some parts of guitars and parts of bubbles. So let's see if we could do that here. Let's see if we can bring in half a guitar. Notice I put some scrap paper underneath my drawing so that I don't go so far as making a permanent mark on the table. So there's half a guitar, and let's do our guitar neck sticking out in this direction. Again, you don't have to copy the directions that I'm moving. I want yours to look unique and different, not a copy of my artwork. And over here we have another space where I might see part of the guitar with the curve on the side. And I think I have enough room to do a sound hole on this guitar. That guitar might actually be very large, judging from the sound hole. And let's add another small bubble to overlap and give us some interest right there. If you wanted to turn some of your bubbles into music notes, you can. If you've been paying close attention to the music notes Ms. Zacharias has been teaching you about in music class, you could also educate people with your art about what a music note should look like. And I think I'll do one more guitar here. Again, we can just see part of this guitar. I think this gives me balance for what I drew in the other corner. And part of the sound hole. And part of the neck. And a large circle that overlaps these two. Not my best circle, but that's okay. It's abstract art. It doesn't have to be an exact representation. It can have some fantasy, some imagination at work in it. And let me add one more circle over here. Again, I'm trying to create some balance in my artwork. So now I have several guitars, a little mandolin, and several overlapping circles where I can create overlap with my colors. Let me go ahead and sign my name to it. I did it as a bubble to kind of blend in with my art, but I usually use my initials to sign my works. So now we can come back with some different bold colors. When I look at these student examples, I see the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, and I see secondary colors of orange, purple, and green. However, you don't have to show what the primary colors make where they overlap with the secondary colors. That's entirely up to you if you choose to do that. I am going to pick some different areas where I can add in these colors, though. One of the good things about doing nice, thick, bold lines with my Sharpie is that it helps me keep from bleeding into another space where I don't want this color to go. Sometimes when we do art, we don't have to stay in the lines. We can break those barriers or break those rules. But in this piece, because we did those thick, bold lines, I'm going to try really hard to stay within the lines of my work, so that each color has its own separate space to live in. I'm going to add a little green there and a little green here. You're welcome to use whatever colors you like. I may come back to green. I really like this yellow though. So now when I put down this yellow permanent marker, it doesn't smear my Sharpie or spread the black ink around. Some markers do that. That's one of the reasons we draw on the Sharpie and we color with the permanent markers. Make sure you cap and snap the markers. So Pablo Picasso used guitars, mandolins, various instruments as the subjects of many of his still life paintings. So you could try to do a still life at home. You don't have to have guitars or musical instruments. All you need are some everyday objects from around your house. So if I wanted to do a still life at home, I might bring in some things like fruit, any food, anything out of my kitchen, bowls, glasses, plates. I could use boxes of cereal or crackers. I could use pots and pans. I could do a still life, if I had toys to pick from, like action figures. I have some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures at my house. I can include them in my still life. Oh, I could use plants. Plants would be beautiful in a still life, and they would be very challenging to draw. So a lot of times when an artist draws a still life, they try to draw it exactly like it looks in real life. But not Picasso. He did abstract still life. So he started with the ideas in those artworks, and then he used his imagination to add things to them. In several of Pablo Picasso's still life works that we looked at, he used tablecloths underneath them. Someone said a blanket earlier today because it had such a bold print design on it. So that's something else you may want to consider if you're trying to do a still life at home, is what kind of objects you would use and what you would set it on so that it had some kind of background. Now we're leaving our background white in this, so all those bold colors really pop out. But at home you might want to think about picking a blanket or a tablecloth that has some colors that would create contrast in your work.